Hello guys, so today in this video we are going to look over classes in Java again, since I'm pretty sure we talked briefly about objects before but not much about classes. So as we covered before, classes in Java are basically instructions on how on the behavior of an object basically, and an object can have custom attributes. You can have custom methods, and a class is basically just defining how you sort of build one. So today we're going to look at how to write a class, and I guess some best practices when it comes to writing OOP with Java. And so first of all, in the last video I think we used an example with a person class. Today we're going to bring that back. And I recall that last time we used something like an identifier and a string name. Well, today I want to introduce something. Basically, these variables, these attributes of the classes, even if you're planning on accessing them outside of the class, you still want to keep them as private for best practices. Private. Sorry, I can't spell when I'm talking for some reason. And so you might ask, how would we get these values outside of the class? Because private essentially means that you explicitly cannot access or modify this value outside of this class. So what we do is with something called a get method and a set method basically. And so basically we use something called get methods and set methods. So basically we have to create two different methods to fetch the value of and to change the value of these attributes. So let's create a new example. So let's do one with, say, money, and one with age. And so an example of a get attribute is, it's very easy. So it would actually return whatever you're trying to get. So it's return this .name. It's quite literally that simple. And this keyword is basically referring to the current object. So if you actually create an object, this will just refer to the object itself. So this will basically tell Java that you're not accessing, here it's ambiguous. You could be trying to access some variable called name, but this explicitly says that you're trying to access the name attribute of this current object, not the class, the object itself basically. And so yeah, the get name is just ridiculously simple. It's just one line of code. And set name usually is also very simple. It's instead of having string as a return type, we would just have void, because we wouldn't need to return anything. So we could just set this .name equals, and we need some argument here. And yeah, a benefit of this keyword is that you don't have to use another name for your arguments, because they aren't duplicates. So you can just call it the same, and it'll differentiate basically. And so let's just see this in action. And we need a constructor. So a constructor is basically not just defining the behavior of the class itself, but also just telling you how to construct the class basically. To money. And usually for simpler classes, constructors are pretty simple, but there are usually some other things that you need to set up. And in this case, we're just basically, when we use this class, we will provide these three arguments, and the three attributes of this object will be and that's what will be assigned to these three attributes basically. So yeah, that's the constructor, and we have to make it public, so it's public person, which is a bit weird. Like in Python we have like a function called init, and it's not hard to imagine that like this method is called when you initialize a class. So I think it's a bit more intuitive in Python, but at this point this is much more like a traditional way of doing it. So yeah, so let's just try to create something. So person equals new person. I think name was first, name, age, money. Okay, so George Walter. Age will be 21. Money will be 25k. Decent amount of money. And let's just try using the getName method to get the name, because according to convention we cannot actually try to like get the name by invoking a variable, but we have to use whatever method has been defined by whoever wrote the class, which in my opinion is a bit inconvenient. So person.getName. Alright, let's try this. Okay, so as expected it prints out, okay, George Walter. Okay, so then let's try the setName function. setName Andrew Walter. Water, it's fine. Oh, and we didn't print it out a second time. Alright, so the second time it got changed to Andrew Water. So we can see that basically whenever you're creating a class for somebody else's use, the best practice is to use to keep instance variables private and to write a bunch of methods to modify and set them. And in my opinion this is a bit more messy, since like I get this could be more rigid. Like whenever you use a class, I guess you definitely know what you're doing, you just have to look up the names of the methods. But if you're like using something that you're frequently, like a class that you frequently have to use, then you have to like memorize the names of these methods. And in my opinion it's one of the things that like make Java a bit harder to pick up than Python, because in Python you would just like directly modify the variable, and yeah, for both of these you would just directly modify the variable. There's no talk of constants, there's no talk of private variables, which I guess makes Python a bit more intuitive. Alright, so in this video we basically looked over setting and getting methods and a bit of good practice. I'm not even sure if this is a good practice, but yeah, we did look at an example of a class and an application of a class, I guess. So goodbye.